Okay, so today we are diving into a topic that's, well, pretty fundamental to all of us. It's food insecurity.
Right.
And I think sometimes it's easy for us to hear that term and it becomes a bit, you know, abstract.
Yes.
But, imagine for a second opening up your fridge,
Yeah.
expecting to make a nice meal.
Right.
And you've only got, like a couple of sad-looking things in there.
Oh, yeah.
That feeling, that immediate feeling of sort of disappointment, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely.
and maybe anxiety about where your next meal is coming from,
Sure.
that's a daily reality for a huge number of people.
It is. It
And
is.
when you think about that on a community level, on a national level,
Yeah.
the impacts are just, they're massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just about, an individual going hungry.
Right.
It leads to malnutrition.
Of course.
It leads to health problems.
Right. Right.
It can actually destabilize entire society.
Yes, and economies as well. It's a huge problem. It really is.
Yeah. And thankfully, there are organizations out there working really hard to address this challenge.
Yes, definitely.
And one that we're looking at today is the African Organization for Human Rights.
Yes.
That's AOHR,
That's right.
based in Morocco.
Yes, they're doing some fantastic work.
They are. And their mission really is quite simple but powerful, right? It's to ensure that everyone has access to the nutritious food they need to live a healthy life.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that they're not just looking for these sort of quick fixes.
Right, right.
They're really trying to build sustainable solutions through agricultural innovation.
Yeah.
Through community empowerment.
Okay, so, the mission is clear, right? Access to nutritious meals for everyone.
Yes.
But how do they actually do that?
Well, I think one of the most striking things about AOHR is their approach. It's proactive.
Right.
It's multifaceted. They recognize that just giving aid, it's not going to be a long-term solution.
Right, right.
So they focus on empowering communities to become self-sufficient in the long term.
Okay.
And they do that through a number of different initiatives. One is sustainable agriculture, providing communities with the knowledge and tools they need to implement these practices.
Right.
Also, embracing innovative farming technologies, things like hydroponics, vertical farming, and also using data, digital tool,
Okay.
to really optimize food management and distribution.
Right. I mean, we hear the term sustainable agriculture quite a lot these days.
We do.
But what does that actually look like in action?
So in the context of AOHR's work, one of the key things they do is implement regenerative agriculture techniques.
Okay.
This is, it's more than just growing crops.
Yep.
It's about actively restoring and improving the health of the soil, encouraging biodiversity, and supporting the ecosystem as a whole.
Okay.
So, for example, they might use techniques like no-till farming, which helps to protect the soil structure.
Okay.
They might use cover crops to prevent erosion and enrich the soil. They might integrate livestock in a way that mimics natural grazing patterns. All of this helps to create healthier land, stronger, more resilient crops,
Okay.
and ultimately greater food security for the community in the long term.
And that long-term aspect is so key, isn't it?
It is. It's a cycle of improvement rather than depletion.
Right, right. And AOHR is also, they're looking at some pretty almost futuristic methods of cultivation, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Things like hydroponics, vertical farming. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So these are methods that allow us to grow food in a controlled environment, often in urban areas.
Okay.
Or in places where there isn't a lot of land available for traditional farming.
Yeah.
And they use significantly less water and soil.
Okay.
So with hydroponics, you're growing plants in a nutrient-rich water solution.
Okay.
And vertical farming takes this concept sort of upwards.
Mm.
You have these kind of almost like skyscrapers.
Oh, wow.
Full of crops growing in these stacked layers.
Okay.
It's very efficient in terms of space.
Yeah.
And it has a much lower environmental impact. So it's really fascinating, this kind of almost like farming of the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got all this innovation in how food is grown.
Yes.
But then you've got the challenge of getting it to the people who need it most.
Right.
And doing that efficiently.
Yeah.
That's a huge logistical challenge.
It is. And that's where the technology that AOHR is using comes in.
Okay.
So one of the things they're doing is using data analytics to forecast demand.
Okay.
So it's almost like having a weather forecast,
Right.
but for food.
Okay.
They can analyze past consumption patterns, seasonal changes, economic indicators, all sorts of different data points,
Right.
and use that to predict where food is going to be needed, when it's going to be needed, and in what quantities.
Okay.
And this allows them to be much more efficient in terms of allocating resources.
Okay.
They can minimize waste and get food to the places where it's most needed.
Yeah, it's like a crystal ball for food, isn't it?
Exactly. It really is. It's a very, very powerful tool.
And they're also using blockchain technology.
Yes, that's right.
Now, we usually hear about blockchain in the context of, cryptocurrency and things like that.
Yeah.
But how does that apply to food security?
Well, what AOHR is doing is they're using blockchain to create these really transparent and traceable supply chains.
Okay.
So basically, you have a digital record of every step in the journey of that food.
Okay.
From the moment it leaves the farm to when it arrives, on your plate.
Right.
And this record can't be tampered with.
Okay.
It increases trust. It increases accountability, and you can track the origin of the food, the quality of the food, the conditions under which it was produced and transported.
Right.
So it's all about ensuring fair practices.
Okay.
It's about verifying the quality and safety of food.
Right.
And reducing the potential for fraud or corruption in the supply chain.
So it's like a foodie's dream come true in a way.
It is. It is. It's about transparency. It's about knowing exactly where your food has come from and having that peace of mind.
And it sounds like AOHR really gets the importance of community.
Oh, absolutely.
How do they approach working with the communities that they're trying to help?
Well, they understand that sustainable solutions can't just be imposed from the outside.
Right.
They really prioritize building genuine partnerships with local communities.
Okay.
They listen to their needs, they respect their local knowledge and their customs,
Yeah.
and they involve them in every step of the process.
Right.
From design to implementation.
Okay.
So it's a real process of co-creation.
Right.
And that's what makes it so effective because the community feels ownership.
Right. Right.
And they're much more likely to embrace these solutions.
And it's not just about giving them, food handouts or whatever.
No, not at all.
It's about empowering them in the long term, isn't it?
Exactly. Empowerment is a key part of their strategy.
Yeah.
They have all sorts of educational and training programs to equip people with valuable skills and resources.
Okay.
So they might train people in sustainable farming techniques. They might have programs on nutrition and healthy eating, even on things like business management and advocacy.
Right.
And the idea is that these skills will help people become self-sufficient in the long term.
Okay.
They'll be able to grow their own food.
Yeah.
They'll be able to make informed choices about their diet.
Right.
And they can become agents of change within their own communities.
So AOHR is also working on kind of like a policy level as well, aren't they?
They are. They understand that to really address the root causes of food insecurity,
Right.
you have to engage with policy.
Okay.
So they advocate for policies that prioritize food security,
Okay.
that support sustainable agriculture, and that address the social and economic inequalities
Right.
that, lead to hunger and poverty in the first place.
Yeah.
So they might work with government agencies, they might participate in policy discussions, they might try and raise awareness about food security issues.
Yeah.
It's all about creating a more supportive environment
Right.
for people to access nutritious food.
And I imagine they do a lot of collaborating with other organizations as well?
Oh, absolutely. Partnerships are a key part of their strategy.
Okay.
They work with other NGOs,
Okay.
government agencies, academic institutions.
Right.
They pool resources, they share expertise,
Yeah.
and that allows them to have a much bigger impact than they could achieve alone.
Yeah. Because this is a huge issue, right?
It is. It's a global issue.
Yeah.
It requires a coordinated effort from all sorts of different actors.
So AOHR is doing all of this great work.
Yes.
But how do they know if it's actually working?
Well, they're very committed to measuring their impact.
Okay.
They collect data, they monitor key indicators, they get feedback from the communities they're working with,
Okay.
and this allows them to see what's working, what's not working, and make adjustments along the way.
Yeah.
And they're also looking at ways to scale up their successful interventions.
Yeah.
So, for example, they might develop training programs that can be used in other regions.
Right.
They might create open source resources and technologies.
Okay.
They might build partnerships that allow them to expand their reach
Right.
and adapt their models to different contexts.
Yeah.
It's all about trying to create a really significant and lasting impact in the fight against food insecurity.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the African Organization for Human Rights in Morocco, and it really seems like they're taking this holistic, forward-thinking approach to food insecurity.
Yes.
They're not just about the immediate relief.
Right.
They're looking at the root causes.
Absolutely.
They're using sustainable practices.
Yes.
They're harnessing the power of technology.
Right.
And really focusing on empowering communities.
Exactly.
It's incredibly impressive.
It is. It's a really inspiring model.
It is. So, seeing what AOHR is doing, the ingenuity, the comprehensive nature of their approach, it really does make you think.
Yeah.
What if this was happening on a larger scale?
Right.
What if there was more international cooperation, more resources going towards this kind of work?
Yeah. It's a really exciting thought.
It is. What kind of impact could we have on food insecurity globally if we really put our minds to it and supported these kinds of initiatives?
I think the possibilities are immense.
Yeah, it's a powerful message.
It is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into the work of the African Organization for Human Rights.
Yes, thank you.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a different global challenge and the inspiring people working to solve it.
We will. See you then.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.